Hello. Long time no see. Well, kind of. I came on here and started talking to you guys a couple of days ago. I wanted to come up. I know it's late, and that's okay. Well, at least for me. I'm up here a little bit late. This time seems to work a little bit for me sometimes. But anyway, I kind of wanted to go ahead and fill you guys in on all of the transits that have occurred for the past, I would say, yeah, month and a half now. I've previously told you guys this before. I was a little bit sick, so it was kind of causing me not to be able to come up here and share the different transits that were going on, and it was really hurting my feelings. But I was trying to figure out a way to approach this, and whether I wanted to go and just start off with the recent moon in Sagittarius, or if I wanted to go a little bit further back and explain everything up until till now, which I feel like actually is better. And I decided to kind of touch on everything over a few videos because that way you guys are not completely lost. The last video I did make was the full moon in Taurus, and after that we did have an awesome new moon, and that new moon was in Scorpio. And as you guys all know, I have a ton of Scorpio in my birth chart, so it's really hard for me to kind of just let the moon kind of disappear into the darkness without explaining what actually occurred during that time, because I do love Scorpio season very much. And although my Scorpio season was spent being inside, since I really couldn't actually speak, so a lot of my intensity was kind of like coming inward. At the same time, I do want you guys to understand what was going on in the past couple of weeks, because in a way this might even help you guys understand why you've been feeling the way that you have been since the beginning of November up until now. So over the next couple of days, I'm going to kind of be making a video. I don't have exact times. I have a lot that I'm doing in the next couple of days, but I do have a few days off, and so I will build time around the other things that I'm doing, so that way I can kind of keep you guys up to date, because we've had some really big changes, especially since I really want to make a video that has to do with Jupiter moving into Sagittarius. It's a major transit. I'm super excited about it because it has to do with my career, and I think that would be a great thing to share that with you guys, being that you guys have such a large position in building my career, since all of you are definitely supporting me during building it. So I definitely want to be able to share those things with you, but ultimately I want to kind of go back so we can understand what's forward, if that makes sense. So I'm going to spend this video talking about the new moon in Scorpio that occurred on November 7th. So that was not too long ago. It's the 11th now, I believe, or it might be the 12th. I never remember the day because I do many things, but it's only about a month ago and a couple days. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. So if you guys can think back to what occurred in your life on November 7th, it'll be really cool to kind of now look back when I explain this to you. So November 7th, we had the new moon that occurred at 15 degrees and 11 minutes of Scorpio. Now, I say this in all the videos that I do so that way you guys can compare. There is a large difference between a new moon and a full moon. And that is very important to understand because of the fact that it is 4 weeks between a new moon and another new moon, and then it is 4 weeks between a full moon and another full moon. Now, during that time, what a new moon is when the sun and the moon are actually at the same exact coordinates, and they're working together as two luminaries trying to project the ego onto emotion and emotion onto ego. And ultimately what that does is that gives you, I'm sorry, that's full moon. So it's working, I'm sorry, I messed up with these two. But now you know that the sun is the ego, the moon is emotion. So with new moon, they're working together. Yeah, I was right. Shining light on both of that. And when I say shining light on both, I'm meaning they're working together in order to bring out the best in each other. Whereas a full moon is actually the opposite. It's shining light, but from a distance. So they're opposite degrees, which is causing them to kind of stare at each other with intensity. And basically, it's kind of like looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, okay, how can I fix self? Through seeing the things that I could see outward, but knowing the things that I know inward. And that's pretty much how that comes off, because the moon taps into the inward, where the sun taps into more so how you execute the inward. Now, I know that a lot of people would definitely say that is also Mars, which is very true, but the sun is more so our essence, where Mars is how we take action on the things that we want. Okay, so the sun is pretty much our glow. Put it like that. And that makes perfect sense because of the fact that the sun has such a heavy light that it shows and shines light onto the moon, which the moon itself doesn't have that natural light, okay? So, going into that, I wanted to talk about the new beginnings that were occurring around that time. So, anytime you have Scorpio in anything, now this could be Scorpio, this could be Pluto, or this could be 8th house because they all correlate with each other. It talks about diving into the depths of self. It talks about death and rebirth, regeneration, and coming alive from some kind of reawakening that ultimately came from a part of ourselves shedding and allowing ourselves to be reborn in a certain kind of way. So the cool thing about this is because we had the full moon that's in Taurus, so you were having the luminaries stare at each other, where you had the sun that was in Scorpio, but you had the moon that was in Taurus, because those are opposite signs. So they're staring at each other by looking at both of their features and seeing light in one another, but also seeing darkness in one another as well. So that's why we had the Taurus and the Scorpio that both talk a lot about possession, but in different ways. And I explain, I don't want to go into detail with this because I did make a video on this, so you guys can look back into my videos and look at, I believe the video is about 55 minutes long, so you guys can go over there and look and see what those two signs, how they're so similar but yet different, and how they kind of see each other in different lights. One being more earthy and one being more on a watery element. So once you go into that, then you can now tune into this video where it talks about how now that we have understood the opposites of each other, now it's about saying, okay, now that we understood the opposites and we found balance between those two things, now we could take that same concept and apply it to working together in order to be reborn. And that's really what the new beginning shines light on, is the fact that the luminaries are now saying, okay, so I'm utilizing what I need and what I want in the same corners and working with each other in order to execute those things. And that's pretty much how those new moons work. And in this particular situation, it's talking a lot about how this is going to work once the after effect occurs of being able to look at the ideas of possession, the ideas of even merging, because again, Scorpio is that merging aspect. Possession could be through merging souls, which would be more Scorpio, or merging bank accounts, which could be more Taurus, because it's earthly matters. It talks a lot of security through spirit versus security through material security. Again, Scorpio and Taurus, the two opposites. So once you go ahead and see the differences between the two and you realize that one is actually within each other, you start to realize that you can now take the two ideas and merge them together. Now, a way to explain this would be perfect for those that understand what a north and south node is. And I say this because I want you guys to understand there are different levels of advancement when it comes to understanding astrology. It's important to understand this aspect to get the new moon and the full moon. It's the idea of the north node and the south node. What we come from in a past life or in past years of our lives, which is south node, coming from that, trying to learn something new that's stemming away from that, not to lose concept of what we've known before, but to see a new light in it. And ultimately, at the end of the day, once you learn the opposite of it, which is the north node, then you're able to now merge those energies together and have them work with what you've known and what you have learned, so that way you can be ultimate self. And it's the same concept when it comes to the new moon. So now you've understood the concepts of the material aspect to possession and the spiritual aspect of possession, to the material aspect of security, to the spiritual aspect of security. Understanding those differences, understanding the aspect of understanding of merging, whether it's merging funds in the material realm or items, or even down to energy as far as cooking for each other. And I don't necessarily always just mean partnerships, but it could also just be even with your family or friends or anything, just merging ideas together, merging in a physical form versus merging in a spiritual form, Taurus and Scorpio. Once you understand those two elements separately, you'll understand how to now apply them together. And that's pretty much what the new moon in Scorpio is about when it comes to November 7th of 2018. So, I'm going to talk to you guys about how the different aspects kind of came about to some moods that you may have been feeling around that time. So first and foremost, let's keep in mind that Venus actually went out of retrograde on November 16th. So it was still in retrograde during this moment, and it was in its last degrees of Libra around this time. It was in the 20s. And because of that, there's still that concept of Venus in retrograde. So that was a major thing to understand. I also made a video on Venus in retrograde, so check that out so you guys would understand what I mean by that too. So keep that in mind because that's definitely going to be spoken about in this video. But let's first talk about, I just wanted to remind you of that, and let's first talk about the first aspect, which was the new moon trining to Neptune. Now, let's talk about the definitions first so you guys don't get confused. Trine basically means that the energies are correlating with each other. They're working together to get to something positive. They have the ability to see the differences, but they still work together, right? Whereas sextiles talks about how they're so similar of energies that they kind of intertwine naturally. So it's kind of hard to pick apart why they work so well together, but at the same time, they just naturally do. So you just kind of go with it and everything works out, which basically is talking about the planets having sex. And they say anytime the planets have sex means that something will be born in a, or produced in a positive way. Same concept when it comes to trine. It's understanding the differences between the two, but understanding how they kind of merge with each other. So examples of trine would be Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, because they're all earth signs. Same concept if you were talking about water, it would be Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces. Trine. They're all under the same umbrella of the same element, yet they are all different in their own little ways, but they all merge in a way together where they kind of like go in the same motion. So that's just giving examples of what trine would mean. So it's the same concept when it comes to understanding how it will work with two planets, or a planet and a certain star or asteroid, however you may look at it. So particularly, or a luminary and a planet. Typically, when the new moon is trining with Neptune, Neptune is all about, it connects with Pisces. So Neptune is all about the dream world. It is about illusion. It is about the idea. I talk a lot about this now. This is actually green tea today, not water, so don't get freaked out by the color. So the water that's inside of this cup, I talk a lot about, and I bring up the cup a lot, but that is basically how you would define spirit, right? You have a solid foundation, and how you would define spirit would be the soul that's inside of that. Same concept when we talk about how we are 70% to, I believe, 85% of water when we are 1 year old, and then after a year we drop down to 50% to 65%, and it's all depending on gender and body weight and etc. But ultimately, we are literally just skin and bones and water. So the way that you would look at that is the water is our consciousness. It's what basically keeps us up. It keeps us aware. You know, obviously, like if that wasn't there anymore, you would just be a material thing. It would be a body, and that's it. So the way that you would look at this is that it's tapping into the spiritual side of self. It's tapping into an illusion. And when I say illusion, it's interesting because a lot of people can get this confused by that. Illusion is, we are an illusion. The whole concept of a human being is an illusion because it's not a real thing. Like, yes, it's a physical form. You can see it in your own way of seeing it. However, everyone sees different perceptions of how to view whatever you're looking at. So it just shows that, like, the illusion of what you're seeing is an illusion. It's all based off of the light that comes within your eyes and it glows out and how your mind projects it. It's a straight up illusion, but that is the reason why if you look at the same coat and it's brown to one person and, I don't know, like a reddish, like auburnish, whatever to somebody else, the point is that it's how you perceive it. And that basically is what Neptune does. It's all about how you perceive things based off of your own light. Okay? So it connects to the spiritual realm. It connects to consciousness. It connects to energy in general. Alright, so if you're taking the new moon, and now that has to do with beginnings, and then you're going ahead and saying that they're trine, so they are of the same element, right? Being that they're of the same element, what it's basically saying is that they're working together. Now, this would say that this causes light on our emotional awareness, okay? So around November 7th, you kind of were feeling like you were accessing a lot of understanding to what you felt inside. And I say this because new moon means new beginnings, but new beginnings are stirring from that belief of I can do this, or I have the ability to manifest the things that I need, right? Because that whole Neptunian vibe is about manifestation. It's having the ability to take something from the spirit realm or something that is thought, an idea, and bringing it into physical form. All right, so a lot of times when I speak of Neptune, I talk about the Magician card, and I've brought it up a billion times. I wish I almost had my card deck out so I can show you, but if you guys have some time, Google it. And the Magician card has the man, he's standing there with a white candle pointing up at the sky and pointing down below at the ground. And that really talks a lot about having all the elements that are necessary, because he has a pentacle there, a sword, a cup, and a wand, which are all the elements. And he has everything that's there on the table. And it's just the ability that once you have those resources, you can now perform your own magic. And really, ultimately, what that's saying is that you put the work in, and once you put the work in, then you can now manifest your goals, because you gained all the different resources by your own work. And now it's just about believing in yourself, because now that you have it in front of you in physical form, it's about believing it in spirit that now it can actually be activated and brought into the physical realm. So, that being said, since there's a lot being thrown at you guys, that's basically saying that there was a lot of light being shined on our emotional awareness, our connectiveness to our own ways of feeling, but also naturally it's also projection. If you're able to connect with self, it's easier for you to be able to connect with others, right? Because we're all connected at the end of the day. So if I'm able to tell my emotions and I'm opening my vulnerability to my own emotions, and I say that because there's a lot of people that are not even vulnerable to their own emotions. They don't want to be, so they form ways on how to push it off or brush it off or stay in denial. But if you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable to your own emotions, then you're allowing yourself to also be vulnerable to others' emotions that are in your area. And that being said is because you're attracting it. You're attracting those things, right? You're being open to them. So that was pretty much what you were doing, or how you felt around that time. I'm just going to read these notes so that way my video is not 5,000 hours long. I'm working on it. It says, being that there are new beginnings, celebrating rebirth. Oh, okay. So what that's basically saying, being that there are new beginnings, celebrating rebirth, because now Scorpio correlates with the idea of death and rebirth. So, being that there's a new beginning, celebrating rebirth, this trine taps into our sensitivity to let anything go that has fallen with the ashes in the previous full moon in Taurus. I made sure to title my video with full moon in Taurus. It was like ashes and new bodysuits or something I mentioned. And if you go back to the video, it talks a lot about why it calls it that. What it's basically saying is kind of like the idea of a caterpillar that turns into a butterfly. It's shedding the skin and being able to now turn into a beautiful butterfly and fly out and grow and blossom. There's a lot of different concepts that can actually follow that idea of shedding skin to being something new and shiny and fresh. And that's basically what the full moon in Taurus was all about, right? Because we were now taking the concept of the physical realm and not allowing that to weigh us down, but allowing ourselves to see that we needed to have that new suit in order to be able to shape our new spirit that was coming into light, right? Because you can't have something that's new fit into something that's old form. It just doesn't work. So in that case, this is basically saying that anything previously that had its ashes spread out on the ground, it also is our responsibility to go ahead and dust everything up into the garbage can. You have to go ahead and sweep it up, dust it out, let it go, whatever you have to do, or let it free and let it go ahead and go back into the earth and then, be used as dirt again to formulate something else. But the point is that at the end of the day, that moon on November 7th was a time that you were supposed to basically make sure that everything was stepped up, right? Because this is the thing about full moons and new moons. They're only 2 weeks apart. And the thing is, although you have 4 weeks between a new moon and a new moon, or a new moon, a new moon and a new moon, or a full moon and a full moon, the thing is that by the second week where, like, you set your intentions on the new moon, and then 2 weeks pass and you're going into the full moon, you should already start seeing changes on the intentions that you set. You should be utilizing the energy that was given at the new moon to set those intentions, and then once you start seeing things kind of formulate, that is going to start happening about 2 weeks later. And then that means that you have 2 weeks left before you start really, really being able to set new intentions, because at that point, a new cycle is going to begin after those 4 weeks. So that being said, let's see. So yeah, it's a major thing to understand that in order for you to be able to be reborn and take, this opportunity to have this new beginning, you have to make sure that everything else that's from the past has scurried up into the past. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to continuously revamp self and forget about the things that you have accomplished, because that's, by all means, that's not what I'm saying, and I said that in the beginning. When it comes to the North Node and South Node, it has everything to do with the fact that, like, once you come into light of something that's positive in the new era, you still want to remember all the things that you had in the past, and ultimately it's about now taking those concepts and utilizing them together to be the best version of self, okay? So, once you go ahead and sweep up those ashes, that's when your sensitivity starts to spark light, because now what it's really about is you have room to take in other knowledge and other things that are going to be healthier for self, okay? Thank you, everybody that's commenting. I'm reading your comments. I'm just trying to finish my sentence, but I appreciate everything. Blessings to you. I'm so glad that you stopped by, and I hope you watched the rest of the video. Also, I'm so glad that it was a nice day. I read that as well. And just stopping by to say you are a beautiful soul. Thank you. You're beautiful too. I appreciate all of this. It's a beautiful thing. Thanks. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So now that this has happened, with all the rest of that, so this will revisit the status of your dreams. Alright, so I made a video where I really started, and I made it from, like, Pisces. Obviously, this has been going on for years, these transits, but being that this year is about manifestation, this year is a year 11, it was really important for me to start explaining everything in the beginning of Pisces, because what people may not know is that Aries is the new beginning to the cycle, and Pisces is what was from the past to go into the future, but it ultimately starts with Aries. And I wanted to talk about the Pisces moon, because, and then kind of go further after that, because I wanted you guys to understand how important it is to take a concept of appreciating the past and then bringing it into the future, but not boggling yourself down by the past. There's a very big difference from that. So, this is going back to revisiting dreams, and this talks about the water trine. So there's a trine of the water trine. It taps into your emotions and the things that you need, and the reason why is because 4th house, which is ruled by Cancer, is all about necessities. It talks about the mind, what's in your mind on a daily basis, and it also connects with the moon, obviously, because the moon and Cancer also are correlating with each other as well. But 4th house, Cancer, and the moon are all under that same concept of the fact that it's talking about the mind. Now, when you have 8th house talks about other people. So it talks about what you need, but it also talks about other people, and then it also talks about how they affect you, because after marriage, 8th house really brings itself to light, and on top of it, it also talks about the psychology behind what you need, because it's the psychology, the secrets, the things that, like, you don't really like to shine light to that much. That's 8th house. Then you have 12th house, which also talks about your psychology, but it talks about your psychology on the spiritual realm. Now, the reason why I say that this is the water trine is because Cancer rules the 4th house of the mind, moon. Scorpio rules the psychology, secrets, things that are hidden, which is 8th house, and that's also Pluto, or even Mars in some cases, but more so modern-wise, it's Pluto. And then you also have 12th house, which is Pisces, and that's Neptune. And that's those three main houses are going to basically tell you about all the psychology of self. What you need, what's the psychology behind why you need these things, the desire of why you need these things, because again, Pluto talks about the desire, and then like your secrets on maybe getting these things and having forms of death and rebirth of how they revamp you and regenerate you into something greater, right? Metamorphosis. And then 12th house talks about behind the veil, right? So even though like 8th house talks about secrets and what's hidden, it's still present, right? Like it's hidden to some people, but some people actually are aware of it, whereas 12th house is completely like behind the veil. Unless you like actually reveal it in a way of through art or through, you know, some kind of depiction of it in metaphors or similes, it's really hard to see it because it's all behind the veil. That's when you tap into the spiritual world. It is the last house before you start the cycle all over again in Aries. So it's important to understand when talking about manifestation, you have to understand those three houses and those three signs and how they fall into your personal chart. Because understanding how they fall into your chart is going to help you understand and identify what it is that you are here to do, your purpose, and how to go about it, and the things that might actually be threatening, right? When I say threatening, talk to a Scorpio. They can talk to you about this all day long. Scorpios are constantly in fear of being vulnerable enough that their own vulnerability threatens their whole being, right? Like their secrets are everything to them, and it's because they constantly think that there's somebody out there to get them or hurt them or whatever the case may be. And if you talk to, like, I'm not even kidding, talk to a Scorpio or somebody with a ton of Scorpio on their chart, Lilith in Scorpio, Lilith in 8th house, any of the planets in 8th house, whatever the case may be, like, or strong Pluto aspects, and like I'm telling you right now, they will, if they admit it, like, and most of them will, there's really like no reason to not admit it. I mean, I have a ton of planets in my 8th house, and I have a very strong Pluto aspect, and like, when I could tell you, like, vulnerability is the scariest shit ever, but I've learned to use it for my career, so it's helping heal me while I heal others, so that works for me. But like, still, vulnerability is scary for me in certain ways, or letting certain people in too fast, or whatever the case may be. So like, talk to a Scorpio, somebody that has those placements, like I said, and they'll be able to tell you. So put it like this: it's the mind. What the mind thinks, how it's afraid to be damaged in its purpose. And when we talk about purpose, that's 12th house things, which is very like Piscean energy, right? Purpose, spiritual path, like what you're here to accomplish. Yes, it ties into North Node. However, again, that Piscean energy is the aspect of taking what the spirit is telling you from the other side and saying, this is what you need to get done. This is your bridge from the spirit realm to the physical realm, right? So understanding those three houses are so, so important. And that's why I think it's important to make sure, like, all right, we talked about the Pisces moon. Now we're going to talk about the Scorpio moon. And when we get into Cancer, which is coming up, it's not too far away, we'll have a full moon in Cancer. And the reason being is because the sun will be in Capricorn. So it's not too far away. It's actually, I believe, the next moon. Because we just had another new moon in Sag. So it will be the next moon. That is the next moon. And that's also extremely important. So I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because it's right in time for that moon when it comes to your dreams. Alright, going forward. So the reason why I brought this up is because this will revisit the status of your dreams. Especially with Jupiter being in its last few degrees of Scorpio during this time, before it entered Sagittarius a day later, right? So the new moon was on the 7th, and then then Jupiter went into Sagittarius from being in Scorpio for a while. It went into Sagittarius on the 8th. So this was like the last moments of Jupiter and Scorpio. And like, if you guys watch my Jupiter and Scorpio video, it was crazy. Like, Jupiter and Scorpio was all about like, truth coming out, like an abundance of truth coming out. There was that Me Too movement. Like, for those of you that watched my video, I also went through something that was very psychologically crazy in my life, and for those that haven't seen it, you guys can check that out to see what it was, and it all had to do with that same concept of the Me Too movement. Like, it was just, everything was coming to light that was in the darkness, and a lot of it had to do with things that would stem from sexuality to, like, scandals to just so many different things. So I definitely would check that out if I were you. But understanding, like, this is the time to revisit dreams and status. And I say this because of this. For somebody that went through a very heavy period in 2017 into 2018, that psychologically just completely changed me as a person into revamping me into confidence and into forgiveness and multiple things that I've learned from that experience, I can definitely say that that is something that I was able to shed, which is what I was saying to you before, shedding all that skin so that way I was prepared for Jupiter going in Sag. Jupiter going in Sag will be a video that I come out with. It's going to be a long one. It might even be a two-part one, or over time be a two-part one, because it's such a major transit. And reason being is because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So it's in its home place, and Jupiter is the happy planet. It is the planet that honestly resembles the energy of God. Being is because it is abundance. That's basically what it stands for. It stands for abundance. And whatever you put into it is really what's going to get you what you need. But it's an abundance of a journey, because Sagittarius is a journey. It's reaching out and getting to know foreign concepts and philosophy, and just kind of bringing in all areas of life rather than bringing in just local areas, which is more Gemini, right? So, like, Sagittarius talks of, like, all cultures, not just one culture or not just one neighboring culture that Geminis would, you know, the in crowd. It's talking about what's outside of the in crowd and the journey it takes to get there. So having Jupiter, which is the abundance of that, it just talks about all the things that you can learn from so many different areas of this world, so many different planes, so many different people, of just different ways of looking at things, right? That's pretty much how that is. And that's a major transit. We're going to be there for a while, and depending on where Jupiter is in your chart, you're going to learn so much in that area, because it is an abundance of that learning experience. I said to you guys earlier, mine's in my career as being a Pisces ascendant, so, like, it's super dope that, like, I'm able to go through that. I'm like, I'm looking forward to this. Like, I'm going to learn so much from my career. I'm so excited. But let's go back. So this talks a lot about revisiting your dreams, because it is part of that water trine cycle. So now this is tapping into, we just went through earlier with Pisces, we went through that concept of, all right, this is the necessary journey that we're going to go through next. This is what we learned in the past journey. This is what we're going to go through next. And now that we're going through it, now we're coming to the concept of, okay, we went through a couple different things. We went through some stuff that scared the shit out of you. We went through things that you're not used to. We went through things that may have questioned your value as a person, right? Because it put someone else's value and shine light on that more than it shined light on your own. And that's because that's the 8th house. It shined light on your secrets. It shined light on your vulnerabilities, things that scare you, your fears, the psychology behind your fears. It shined light on your desires and why you're desiring the things that you desire in the first place. Your darkness, the things that are not out in the open. That is what that new moon stands for. Because now we've already passed into the next segment from what our dreams, what we were told to do, and now we're here, right? Especially in the year of manifestation. So we come here, and now it's saying, okay, you just went through all this stuff, especially with the abundance, right? Jupiter in Scorpio, the abundance of this stuff. Now that you went through all this and you're at your final stages, because you're in your last degrees, right? Because I'm about to go and switch, Jupiter's about to go to Sagittarius in a few hours. Now that you went through this, how are we going to leave the ashes that we've left? How are we going to remember what our dreams were before all this craziness came about? And how are we going to shine light on the fact that we are bigger than all the ashes that are on the floor? That is basically what New Moon Trine Neptune is asking you. It's saying, look in the dream world. The dream world is not really the dream world. We're in a dream world right now. Everything is a dream world. So the bridge to bringing what is thought into what is physical, and bringing into what is thought into the new presence of the present right now, right? That ability to do that is saying, let's now unveil everything. Take it off. And the reason why I say this is because typically we have to remember that Neptune is still in retrograde. At this very moment now, all of the inward planets are out of retrograde since the summer when it started in May, right? However, the outward planets are still in retrograde. So, or two of them, not all of them, Uranus and Neptune. So Neptune is still in the process of unveiling secrets, taking the veil off the spirit realm. And someone said to me today, which is totally cool, like, I'm so glad someone else said it, because sometimes I'm like, damn, like, you know, I feel like a beautiful soul, but a lot of times, like, I'm talking and stuff that, like, some people are like, damn, can we talk about, like, work? I'm just like, no, I don't want to talk about work. I want to talk about fucking aliens and, like, you know, what's out there in the real world, like, the real world. Like, this shit that we see right now is just, like, a mind fuck about everything that really matters. Like, you're already clocked in on a whole nother level. Like, you're clocked in when you wake up. You're clocked in when you're sleeping. Like, when you go to work, that shit is so not the real world, but you think that way because that's what we're taught. That's where our minds take us. That's what, like, our DNA is telling us because we were brought up to know these things, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, but that's what we were raised to believe. And now so many of us are waking up realizing, like, yeah, like, there's a greater world out there. It's not just like me going to work, like drinking coffee, going to work, paying the bills. Like, there's more out there. So anyway, I get into that because I'm trying to say, like, because Neptune has unveiled, like, they've completely just knocked down the curtain. I have friends coming at me, like, today, like I was saying, someone said to me today, there's a huge spiritual war going on. And, like, there's so many people that, like, don't have no idea. Like, there's just, like, there's spirits, like, actually, like, they're battling. Like, they put us certain people out to be the warriors. Like, they sent us here to get the shit done. And, like, it's so important that, like, when they're throwing numbers at us, like, perfect example. I mean, it's backwards, but this says 1, 2, 3, 4 for those that have seen my my video on 1, 2, 3, 4. That sucks that it's backwards. But anyway, to know that, like, you're getting signs left and right, 222s, 111s, you know, like, you might see a number that resembles another message for you that you know of. Like, lately I've been seeing a ton of 5s, a ton of 2s, a ton of 7s, a ton of 1111s. I'm like, alright, big changes in the spirit, you know, like, manifestation, ability to manifest is heavy right now, and balance in relationships, like, this is gonna be, like, it's my time. Like, I keep seeing these numbers, right? So, like, if you're not paying attention, like, guides are literally on the other side, like, what the fuck? How many synchronicities do I have to send you? How many numbers do I have to send you, right? Like, they're doing as much as they can to, like, get you to be like, hello, but ultimately, like, they chose you to be their representative, right? They chose you to be that representative. So it's so important for you to have faith in yourself and for you to be like, all right, now that this opportunity is there, like, the veil is down between the spirit world and, you know, the physical world. The veil is, it's down. Like, you can see it if you really want to see it. And that is the reason why having it trine, having the new beginning, the new moon trine Neptune, it's basically saying the new moon is so much, like, this new beginning is so much in favor of your spirit. It's so much in favor of, you know, making you into the next tier in your world. Now, keep in mind, because of that as well, it's also working on another end of saying this was a time, November 7th, where a lot of people were finding out some secrets that were, they've somehow snuck underneath all the things going on, like with like Venus in retrograde and Scorpio. Like, I don't know how the hell some of y'all kept some of y'all's secrets after that. Let me tell you, my secrets, woo, everybody has secrets. My secrets came out, and like, I was kind of cool with it because I'm like, you know what, it's time. But like, my point is that at the end of the day, if you didn't want your secrets to come out, they were coming out around November 7th. Like, that was like the strawberries. Like, yeah, so we're going to filter this a little bit more and strain out a little bit more of the shit that you think is not going to be out there. It's going to be out there. So, a lot of, like, lies were discovered. A lot of, and it could have been, like, silly things, but it could have been large things. You know, like, it wasn't enabling illusion to take over. That's pretty much what it's saying with trine Neptune in retrograde. Like, everything was coming to light. What else? Makes dancing. Okay, so it's time to execute your needs by utilizing the joint energy from the sun and the moon. So the sun and the moon are both connected and have access to the bridge of the spirit realm, which is totally true. Now you have double light, right? You have emotion also in the same area that you have the sunlight. Now, the crazy thing about it is, look at it like this. Sunlight is awesome because, you know, like there's light on me right now. Like there's light in the back. Like you could see it, right? You can see it shining. But if you're an emotional person, you can like, and I say emotional, I don't mean like boohoo emotional. I mean emotional, like you're able to tap into people's like whole energy, like orbs. You know what I mean? If you turn the lights off, the fact that you could still feel people is so much more powerful than just being able to shine light on them, right? Because it's different. Like, just because you could see it doesn't mean that you understand it. And that's a big thing. You can understand something and still not see it. And there's a lot more power in that because it's the same concept of, like, when you think of the stars and the moon. Like, you could see up there, but you can't legit see every little curve and crack in the moon unless you have, like, a telescope. You know what I mean? Or, like, unless you, like, got to the moon somehow. So the point is that, but you know it's there. You know that there's cracks in the moon. You know that there's things that are going on around it because you can feel it. And that's pretty much what it's saying. Like, it has both aspects in its corner when it comes to having the sun and the moon actually, like, in the same area of trining with Neptune. When it's able to do that, that's just so dope. Like, that's basically saying not only can you see it, but you can also feel it. So you have two beautiful senses on your side, you know what I mean, for you to be able to now connect with the spirit realm because it is that bridge, okay, because Neptune is the spirit realm. So, or it stands for. I don't want to say Neptune is the spirit realm. Neptune connects to it. It's that planet, that like governing planet for it. So yeah, so then also this was a great time to connect with your inner child. I say that because of this. Being that Neptune is the planet that connects with Pisces, Piscean energy is just, it's such a youthful energy of just like, and when I say youthful, I don't take away the wisdom from it. The reason why it's able to be youthful is because there's so much wisdom behind it that it's simply like, okay, this is all just like an experience. That's pretty much how that Piscean energy is. And if you talk to a Pisces, they will pretty much say, they're like, you know what, I have the ability to kind of jump from dimension to dimension and kind of just like lose myself in like another world. And it's so easy for them to do that just because of the fact that they have that natural understanding that like, yeah, we're in the physical realm, but at the same time, like, there's just so much more out there. And why take it so seriously? Like, let's just have fun with it, right? Because we've been through all these things. We've been through the Aries, the Taurus, the Gemini, the Cancer. Like, we've been through all the ways of looking at life. So at this point, let's just be. And that's pretty much how that Pisces energy is. It's a loving, unconditional loving, in many ways, no boundaries energy, because it's like, there is no such thing as boundaries. And that's why, like, the opposite of the opposite of Pisces, which is Virgo, same concept. Like, Virgos, a lot of Virgos are like, what are boundaries? Until you piss a Virgo off enough. It takes a long fucking time. A long time. But once you, like, once you just put it there, like, Virgos are like, done deal, wash my hands with it, right? Pisces, for them, it's like they see love in such a crazy light that they're so sensitive, unless they have like some kind of like moon or moon or like rising that makes them a little bit more hard on the edges. But like that Piscean energy, having that anywhere, especially in your like main 3 signs, like it's just really hard for you not to be able to tap into other people's emotions or be emotional yourself, right? So like, that being said, like, this is the time that like everything's kind of working together to shine light on that bridge. So it's major. But on top of it, have fun with it. So this is time to tap into your child. Your inner child of like, what did I like to do when I was younger? Oh, let's go play this game. Oh, let's go do this. Let's go have fun with that. Let's experience this type of thing. Like, have fun with life at that point, right? That's basically what it was saying during that time. Is to just like have fun. Alright? What else? Yes. I wanted to mention this as well when it comes to that concept. So many of you might have seen this before. It was a meme that has a statue, and the statue is 2 adults that are sitting back to back. They're obviously upset with each other, and then you see the 2 children inside, and they're kind of like pressing hands together. So that's a very major point here, because it talks about forgiveness, right? And this is why I said tap into your inner child as well. When we're children, like, the littlest thing will make us cry, and then, like, we get a piece of candy, and we're, like, totally over it. You know, be like, look at life like that. And that's pretty much, like, what it was saying to do during that time. And I wish I, like, honestly made this video back then, because then if you guys were going through that hard time of trying to understand and convert your energy of spirit into physical manifestation, understand that it was time to just kind of have forgiveness with yourself about a lot of things, not just with other people, with yourself. Many times you have to forgive yourself. You just have to. There's just too many times that people are just like hard on themselves for no apparent reason. Like, it's fucking life, bro. We're all gonna fuck up. That's just how life works. We're here to learn. Nothing is perfect. I say that as a freaking Virgo. I don't understand how I'm saying this, because I tell myself every day I can be as close to perfection as I can when it comes to getting things done. But I'm telling you right now, even coming from a Virgo, nothing is perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect, because your perception of perfection is a completely different perception from somebody else. So understand, it's very important to understand you need to learn how to forgive yourself. If you can't forgive yourself, you'll never be able to forgive anyone else from hurting you, harming you, whatever the case may be. So important to learn how to forgive yourself. Understand you're going to fall. You want to forgive yourself and you want to work hard? Fucking fall, get up, and utilize how you feel, and push. Keep pushing, right? I read a quote recently, and I don't want to like say it word for word because I could totally mess it up, but it says, pretty much, a child that falls doesn't get up and say, I can't do this thing called life anymore, right? They don't do that. It doesn't make sense. They just get up and they start running all over again. They might cry a little bit, and they know because they can get that piece of candy, but then other than that, they're like, alright, I'm going to get up and I'm just going to keep running, or I'm going to keep touching this freaking flame, even though, like, everybody's told me it's hot, and I kind of proved that it was hot, but I'm going to touch it anyway, because, like, it's life, dude, and, like, I'm only going to get a chance to burn my hand how many times, so let me do it, and let me just enjoy doing it, right? It's that kid way of looking at things and being so excited about just living and being present. Like, children are not just excited because they're just children. They're excited because they're coming from a different realm, and it's like, subconsciously, they don't even know. They're like, oh my god, this is just new experiences. Like, I'm in a new world. What the hell is all this? I want to touch everything, right? I want to bond with everything because everything is just so cool and different, and like, I don't even know where the hell I come from, but like, holy shit, this looks great. That is pretty much how a child looks at things. Similar to a dog. Understanding the present, not being boggled down by the disruptions and negative things about life, right? Same concept. So it's basically trying to say that during that time, rather than like continuously just surround yourself with that negativity, like, forgive. You have to forgive You don't have to forget, but you have to forgive. Forgive for yourself. You're not forgiving for anybody else but yourself, and it's very important to understand. Yes, you may be forgiving so that way, you know, you can move forward with someone else, but forgiveness is really for yourself. So anyway, that was the time that was the best time to do that. Alright, now let's talk about the next one. Excuse me while I drink my green tea. It'd be funny when I start doing promos. I don't know if I would do this. But anyway, alright, so new moon, sextile Pluto. This energy is kind of sexy in a way, right? And I say this because I'm going to mention later about Venus and Mars also having an aspect. Like, new moon, sextile Pluto would basically mean, like, the moon and Pluto are kind of doing the nasty. Now, think about new beginnings, and you're mixing that with a little bit of depth and darkness and desire, right? It's basically saying, like, it's shining light and ego, which ego is not an issue. Again, ego is not an issue as long as it has a reason behind it, right? You need an ego to be able to execute things. You need that, like, spunk, that light. But you only need it once you realize what's needed versus what is just simply desired. But in this way, it's kind of supporting each other now. Rather than simply desiring something and relying on just being a glutton and being like, well, I have the opportunities, I'm just going to take it. It's more so of saying, like, your new moon, your new beginning is actually supporting your desires, right? Because Pluto has everything to do with what we desire and why we desire it. What it's desired from a previous desire that has already been accomplished and experienced. Now, naturally, you desire something else. But why do you desire this thing? What was it about the previous thing that caused you to desire this particular thing in the present, right? So, new moon, new beginning is supporting that. So there's a new beginning in that, like, that burning passion. Like, every time I talk about this, I think of a blue flame. That, like, and it's interesting because I say this, and the reason why I say a blue flame is because you have, that Scorpio energy is water. But it's also, like, that intensity and that fire because of Mars, right? That traditional governor of, like, governing planet. So, like, I naturally think of this burning blue flame. And, like, we've seen that so many times. Like, think about it. When you see, like, a blue flame, like, that shit it's hot. It's really hot, right? I believe it hasn't hit oxygen yet or something like that. Because that has something to do with even, like, having blue blood before it's red. But, like, blue flames are, like, hot. And that's exactly that energy of Scorpio. It is that burning blue flame. And having that with, like, the new beginning of a new moon is just, like, this sexy, like, new, like, I'm ready to just come out and just shine. Like, that's exactly what I'm seeing in that. And then having that aspect later that I'll get into is just even sexier. So, anyway, let me read the notes on that. So, energy that looks for how to go about fulfilling your desires, which is what I wrote. It is potent energy. It's, like, strong energy. And coupled with trining with Neptune, this energy is not afraid to go in the part of the ocean beyond the darkness. This is great for starting from a clean slate after truths come out in the open. And I mentioned this before, like, if Neptune was direct, this would be great for covering things up, which would kind of suck. But in this positive energy, it means that, like, Neptune is actually retrograde, so it's actually helping. This is causing things to really be out in the open, right? Because you have that trine of Neptune, and then now you have the sextile of Pluto. So it's like all this energy is saying, nope, we're still cleaning house. We're still fucking getting all this stuff out in the open. And after getting all this stuff out in the open, then you're really going to be able to, like, have this sexy new beginning. And I say sexy because, like, tell me you don't feel, like, sexy with new clothes. Like, you got new stuff, you got a new attitude, there's new confidence there. Like, that is sexy. And that is exactly what is in that energy, because it's the new desire, a new burning desire. When you think desire, I just naturally think of, like, I desire it, I crave it. Like, I want to devour this new situation. So it's a sexy beginning. And, like, others might be like, what the hell? Well, I have Lilith in my 8th house, and I always find a way to push everything towards sex. But yeah, it is a sexy beginning. What else? Venus went direct on November 16th. Therefore, if you could remember the last 2 weeks, remember how much stuff was out in the open. This moon is a forgiving moon, setting up the scene for duality that takes place at the full moon in Gemini a few weeks later. So, what that basically means is that once you go ahead and clear all the air, now it's trying to say, alright, all the air is clear. Now your shadow can kind of step out a little bit. And that's what kind of sets up that whole scene for the next moon that ends up being the full moon in Gemini. And that was major. That was so major. And I can't wait to talk about that because that full moon was freaking nuts. So that would definitely be the next moon that I will be discussing on here to kind of keep you guys updated. And like, that moon was nuts. It was crazy. It was actually, it was a full moon in Gemini. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. That was the moon that was before the new moon in Sag. Your shadow came out, honey, but it only peeked out once there was clear space. And that's basically what it's saying, like, that cleaned house. Alright, so then we had 2 more aspects. So let's talk about those. So I know that I just mentioned the new moon in sextile, the new moon sextile Pluto, talking about how sexy that new beginning was. Well, it also correlated because Venus trined Mars. Now, forgiveness leads to sexual therapy. The reason why is because Venus has to do with the self-expression approach to it. Now, again, self-expression could also be the sun because it is tied to Leo, which is talking of self-expression in the 5th house. However, Venus talks about our artistic expression, and through art is how we talk, what we eat, how we value self. Art is also, how we express ourselves to others. It ties heavily with Taurus and Libra, so it correlates with the 2 of those. So having that energy and having that trine, again, they're working in the same rhythm, right? They're different. You could see how they're different, but they're working in the same rhythm. Having that energy trine with Mars, which is the soldier of the zodiac, like the soldier of the planets, the aggressor, and depending on what sign it's in is really what makes it different. Like Mars was actually in Aquarius around this time. So having it in Aquarius and then Venus was also in Libra means that they're working, like I said, they're working in the same motion. But it also talks about pretty much how you're not going to be rebellious, right, with self-expression. That's pretty much how it is. Like your artistic self, the way that you express yourself, the way that you speak, the way that, whatever the case, it's going to rebel. What you talk about, the topics that you talk about, all that, it's just going to naturally rebel, or it's going to be a new, revamped way on how you actually do it. And the reason being is because it's in Aquarius. Mars is in Aquarius, so it has new, innovative ways on how to act, is pretty much how it's saying. So forgiveness leads to sexual therapy, right? Because anytime you got Venus and Mars, it's that spark of aggression and just artistic expression and beauty and all that other stuff, and love, right? Because Venus is also love. So a lot of us were doing some like sexual therapy going on. A lot of us around that time were like, all right, there's some forgiveness. We know there's forgiveness. I'm also trying to connect to the spiritual realm. I'm also trying to bring things into physical form. And what better way to do that than through sexual manifestation, through sexual magic? A lot of you are probably like, what the hell is that? Google it. It is crazy. Sexual magic is one of the most beautiful, yet it could be very dangerous if you use it in a vampirism kind of way. But other than that, especially if you wear this crystal, I'll be completely honest with you, having the sun and the moon, and then also having labradorite, you're able to now, in a way, like, I mean, I'm not even gonna bullshit you. I'm gonna keep it straight. Like, you can use it with magic, and like, if you actually did a lot of, looked up a lot of spells or like different ways to do energy healing with the 3 concept, a lot of them will use a sunstone, a moonstone, and a labradorite, because labradorite is really big on healing, and it's the magic crystal. Like, it's a very heavy energy crystal. And if you were to wear something like that, along with having the sun and the moon in your corner and you're having sex, you're now taking the energies of two beings that are merging together and intertwining into their souls together. Their energy is just naturally like flowing through each other, and you're able to brew this crazy ass energy tornado that, like, why the fuck not? Why can't it manifest things that you need? Of course it's gonna manifest things that you need. So super dope that like Venus trined Mars. Now, keep in mind though, that's awesome when you're in something that was already established. Not necessarily just a relationship, it's something that was established way before Venus went into retrograde. Reason being is because this was something I talked about earlier when I spoke of Venus in retrograde. If it was a time period that like Venus trined Mars, that like a lot of you were like, oh, fuck it, I just want to have sex with this person. I think they're beautiful. I think they're hot. I think they're like delicious, whatever, however you look at it. And like, it was just not a good thing to do that. Because unless you wanted something that was just going to spark you for the moment, it's like, it's not a good time to start something new. And that was actually expressed in the Venus in retrograde video. So like, it's not a good thing to do that, because nothing really lasts that's sparked unless it's something that was already established and you're now utilizing that energy to go back and fix things from the past rather than start new things, right? Major. So if anybody has had really wild sex with a complete stranger or somebody new around that time and you were trying to hold out, sorry I wasn't around to tell you not to do so. But you live and you learn, right? Fail forward. Alright, so forgiveness leads to sexual therapy, but because Venus was still in retrograde, your best bet was to look for your old your old chastity belts. Totally in my notes. It's true. Alright, you might have been more aggressive in expression, which I also covered. Alright, so that's that. And then the last aspect that I have for you guys is Jupiter quincunx Uranus. So again, let's talk about what quincunx means first. Quincunx talks about two energies that are so awkwardly related, like they're not related really at all. For example, Virgo and Aquarius. However, like in a way, like it's interesting. A lot of people will say quincunx means like they really just have nothing absolutely in common. I don't believe that. I just think it's a different way of looking at it, but like they do have similar. It's weird how I can explain it, because the reason why I would say that is because where Virgo and Aquarius are very different, because Virgo likes details. Aquarius likes the bigger picture. Now, although they have nothing to do with each other, they're kind of awkward around each other, at the same token, there's a lot of Virgos that can help Aquarius. And I say this because I am a Virgo sun, a Libra moon, which is like kind of balances everything out. And then I am an Aquarius Pisces rising. And I say Aquarius Pisces rising, a lot of people are like, what? Because my chart follows Pisces more. But I do have my cusp falling in Aquarius, and I have literally like all of Pisces in my first house. So I always say Aquarius Pisces rising. I'm sure there will be somebody like in the future that will be like, that's not a thing. This is the reason why I say it. Other than that though, I can tell you from seeing both aspects, if it wasn't for me looking in my details, I wouldn't be able to see the bigger picture. And that's the reason why, like, if they can just kind of separate from their own egos and see that, like, they can utilize each other's way of thinking to help each other see their own, like, niche, it will definitely help them in the long run. So that's why I say, like, quincunx is awkward. It's awkward energies. But, however, if they're able to separate what makes them different, they could definitely work together. Okay? So, that being said, Jupiter, which again talks about the abundance, right, is quincunx Uranus. Uranus talks about innovative things. It rules Aquarius. But Uranus also goes deeper into talking about futuristic things. Like I try to say a lot of times when I speak of Uranus, I bring up Japan. Like, it's on a whole nother level of their future. And it's really about the new ideas that are so large that it scares most people. But naturally, like, if you have a lot of Uranus, like heavy Uranus energy in your chart, or like if you like have like a lot of planets in your 11th house, or a lot of like energy in Aquarius, or however you might look at it, or you could even have like Uranus in 1st house or Uranus in 4th house, or like one of, like I said, Uranus in either 8th or 12th, if you have any of that in those areas, or you have Aquarius in one of those areas, then it's going to be major for you to understand how dynamism, I think that's how you say it, dynamism, how that really comes into play when it comes to understanding, like, how this could work. So basically what I wrote down was, there's dynamism in what was previously taught to what is now discovered. And because of that, it might bring some kind of understanding or revelation to lead you into a new route or a new approach on how to see your values or morals. Alright, so that could have happened to around November 7th. Makes a lot of sense because in a way, I could definitely say around like November 7th, around the Scorpio moon, like I kind of was feeling like, how do I explain this? In a way to kind of give an example. I kind of was looking at things in a different light, like kind of saying, alright, so I have these plans and I have these goals. But having these goals does not mean that I have to lock them into that certain time frame. There might be a different way on how I could approach it, or a different way on how they can come about other than what I'm seeing in my mind. And I had to learn to accept the concept that, like, just because you request something doesn't mean it's going to come right away. And it also doesn't mean that just because it doesn't come right away doesn't mean it's not actually good for you. It just means that, like, it has its time. And there might be something else working in the process that you're not exactly seeing on the other end because you're so clouded by this reality that you're projecting, right, in your own mind. You might not necessarily see how it's leading up. I had to explain this to one of my clients the other day, where it's like I did a reading for her, and like the past month she kind of like just separated herself from like, you know, dating and everything else. And like the last reading we did was talking about how she had something in common with the guy that she truly, truly loved on business. However, it took for them to separate in order for them to realize how much they have value in each other, but also they had to value themselves as individuals first to really be able to see that. And they're going to go through things first with other people. The more that they keep putting themselves out there thinking there's more, the more they're going to even get tired of their own expectation of it. And she didn't understand that, I guess, at the reading until, like, now it's a month later, and she's like, you know what, I really actually separated myself from the situation, and, like, now that I have, that person actually started contacting me. Where before, I was contacting them, and they legit said, like, that person forgot about me, you forgot about me, and I was like, no, what it is that you guys are giving each other a break, and now you're starting to see things in a new light because you're giving each other that time, that space, that energy of being able to take on new concepts and new ways of looking at things, and not clouding each other with each other's perception of what's going on. You know, you're actually taking a break and listening for once rather than like executing without purpose. And that's something I always cover. An ego is not bad as long as you execute it with purpose. If you don't execute it with purpose, then it's just an ego. And at that point, it's just shining light that's just like in people's faces for no apparent reason. There's no purpose behind it. There's nothing that's shining, it's shining light on. It's just shining the light in general and blinding people. So anyway, going back, yes. So, alright, there's gonna be dynamism, there we go, in what was previously taught to what is now discovered, and might be a revelation that leads to a new route or approach to values and morals, or an abundance of disagreements with certain sense system. Important to understand. Abundance, right? That's what Jupiter stands for. And Uranus can cause a lot of rebellion. So it could be like abundance of rebellion and abundance of disagreements on what you're used to. So you might actually have had a really major like moment of just being like, fuck this, I'm doing it different, I don't even care, like I'm done, and just like completely like just destroying like the door that opens like to something that's completely different of how to look at something. Or like it could be like maybe you live at home and like, I don't know, like your parents are expecting a certain way, or like your job expects a certain system or a certain way of looking at things or doing things, and like this is the first time you're like, screw this, I'm done. And like it's just an abundance. So it's not like one situation and that's it. It's like trickled events of like nope, 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 nope. Like that is an abundance of energy. Or it could be like one blow, but it's a large blow that has been gathered gas for like a while that just is released. Like that's pretty much what that energy is. And ultimately what it is it's saying like, I'm respecting. That's the thing about Uranus. Uranus respects what Saturn has done, right? Aquarius respects what comes out of Capricorn. However, at the same time, Aquarius also understands, like Uranus also understands, in order to go forward into the future and create magic and continuously like upgrade, you have to respect what was there, but have to understand that you still can't just keep everything about it. Certain things have to change. Certain ideas of how to look at it have to change, right? So that's what it's basically saying. It's like saying that those energies are helping you break through to new ideas and break through to a different way of looking at things, especially after you have forgiven the situation. All right? And the best way to describe this energy, I wrote this down, would be, if you guys have the tarot or if you guys can Google, it would be the Judgment card right before the World card. It's number 20 and 21. And the reason is because you have to have your judgment first, and you have to deal with what is given to you, right? You have to deal with the ending result, but also understand that after the ending result, there's still a world out there. There's still you graduating past whatever you're going through, and then once you graduate, the cycle begins again, and it goes right back into either Aries, or it goes into the Fool, which is that Aries energy. I'm not calling Aries Fool, that's legit, like, in tarot. The Fool card represents that beginning, right? And Aries represents that beginning. So, like, right before, or I should say right after you have that judgment, then, like, you graduate, and then once you graduate, same concept with the full moon in Pisces, you graduate, and then after, you start a new beginning. And that's exactly how to explain that Jupiter, quincunx, Uranus energy, because it's like, all right, we've graduated now. Now there's an abundance of not just us graduating, but now it's like, all right, graduated, what's the new concept? Let's get it. Like, that's that energy. All right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, you can't have those with either of those without having the Tower first, and that's major. For those that, like, always, I had somebody ask me that I did reading, like, oh, I thought the Tower was a bad card. No. Tower just means you gotta shake shit up a little bit in order to get something, like, to start moving. Like, something else has to, propel forward, but the only way to do it is by shaking shit up in the past to realize that things need to be propelled forward. Okay? So, that's all that I have for the new moon in Scorpio. It was an awesome new moon. I'm super excited because it was the last new moon before, before Jupiter transited into Sag. Alright, so major. Anyways, that's my video on new moon in Scorpio. I also will be posting, like, I know people secretly are like, what? But, like, I have old videos that are from the summertime when I first started making, like, legit, like, I was making videos before throughout the year, but, like, I was making videos that I was trying to edit and realizing that I was better with live because editing just took so much time, and I'm like, screw it, people will just see how I really am, and I just have to learn how to talk on cue because this is just too much. And I don't have the time to, like, literally edit, and oh my god, especially being a Virgo, like, it turns into an entire project, like, it's crazy. So my point is this, I'm going to be releasing videos that are, kind of like the lost files, so it'll be like, the retrograde that was Saturn retrograde. I believe I already released Mars in retrograde. I already released Mercury in retrograde from the summer, but I still have videos that are actually like retrograde, like Neptune in retrograde and Uranus in retrograde and Pluto in retrograde. So I still have those 4 videos that I really want to post because those are major to understand the transits, and I think it'll help. Other than that, that is it. And I have some other news coming up soon. I'm super excited. I kind of let most of you know. I actually got a lot of likes, which I want to thank you all so much. It really shows how much you guys support my endeavors, and I really appreciate it. It is the fact that I got accepted to fashion school, so it's pretty cool. And I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to see the journey that it takes. I'm looking forward to hopefully going in March, and paying most of it by February. But looking for grant information. So if anybody knows any grants that I can apply to pay for this, I'd really appreciate it. A lot of you know, and some of you don't know, that I also got an apartment, so I'm kind of like pushing everything together. Thank you. I see your message. Thank you for your congratulations. But kind of pushing everything together all at once, and like obviously like that's not really the smart way to go about it, but that's just how life kind of took me here. But anyway, if I don't go in March, I'm definitely going to be going in September, and I'm shooting for March hopefully. But for anybody that knows grant information, like, I would be super thankful. It is a private school, so it is not a school that can take financial aid as far as FAFSA or Pell Grants or anything. So, like, if anybody knows any, like, artistic grants for private schools, please send that over my way. And I might be starting a GoFundMe as well if, like, I feel like it might work. I'm a little nervous about doing it, but I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, on another note, that's the news the past couple of days. Okay, baby, my dog has to make a speaker, so he just grabbed. Other than that, alright, come here, say hi to the people. Hey, say hi to the people. Hi to the people. So other than that, yeah, that's really it. And I hope you guys have a beautiful next day. I'm probably going to come up here tomorrow and talk to you guys about the Gemini moon that happens, which is super major. The full moon in Gemini. So, yep, there's new moon in Scorp. Hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night, and have a beautiful dreams. Have beautiful dreams. Okay, I gotta go. So, I'll be back here to sleep. Night. Love ya.